That's the good shit, as they would say. I'm having lavender chamomile turmeric tea. So good. Highly recommend it, especially if you're a little bit high strung, as I am sometimes. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another video. I'm your host, Volk, and today we're here to discuss the first of the many Uranus direct transits that we're about to have throughout several months until Uranus goes back retrograde on August 26th, as it stations on the 24th. So the next several months ahead of us are going to be very active in terms of outward change, brewing up from the experimental cauldron. That's what I like to see Uranus as. Because if you remember, if anyone needs a refresher on what Uranus has to do about, Uranus is everything that's experimental, conceptual, novel, new, inventive, out of the norm, eccentric, weird, zany. That's all Uranian stuff. Has to do with the people, open-mindedness, detachment, debate, the wiring of the mind and the rewiring, the evolution of the mind and consciousness, bringing the unconscious and incorporating that into your current conscious so that you accelerate your genius into being used for the greater good of the collective. So that's all Uranian stuff. It's the public. Instead of the hierarchy, we're talking about everyone at large. People, the people, public welfare. That's all Uranus stuff, including technology, internet, science, astronomy, astrology even, supposedly. Anything that's far-reaching, right? And that requires a synthesis of ideas being brought together into a new concept. That's all Uranus, believe it or not. And we are here to talk about the first of many Uranus direct transits that we're going to have until August 26th. And the first one that we have is funnily on one of the very last days of January. I'm recording this on the 19th, Wednesday. Tomorrow is when Uranus is actually going to be going direct. So we're still having that stationary effect. Hence why you might notice, you might have already noticed that I'm speaking in a bit of an unusual way. Not very concisely, but also with an urge to get ideas out of my mind as soon as possible before they dim away, right? With Uranus, you really have to seize your own genius and make practical use of it. Otherwise, it's all over the place and it does its own thing and it's fleeting like a storm. Anyway, so January 30th, 2022 is our first of Uranus direct notable transits. We have some very important stuff going on. Some not so easy stuff to start the year off a month into 2022. So Uranus and Taurus, we all know the story about how it falls in that zodiac sign. Uranus placed in the sign that is least adaptable, the last one to be changing its circumstances and habits. Yes, Taurus, we all know that you don't like discomfort. You're too attached to your own sense of security, and that's great and all, but sometimes you're really limiting yourself from new growth that way. So Uranus and Taurus, which is staying there until 2026, is having a tense interaction with the Sun on January 30th. So Uranus and Taurus squares the Sun in Aquarius. And this is really notable. This is very interesting to look at, being that Aquarius, the sign associated to Uranus, is interacting with Uranus in the sign that it falls, in a place of tension, of disruption, restriction, contraction. Squares are not easy. You don't skate through them. It's not a placement that you go, I look forward to this square. No, especially when zodiac sign Taurus is involved. Oh boy, you're going to see a lot of stubbornness on that day. You're going to see people not willing to accept other people's points of view. So January 30th is not going to be a day that you're going to be able to ignore, okay? Especially with all of the heavy stuff that's been going on earlier in January relating to obsession, attachment, to old behaviors, workplaces, authority figures, and dynamics that are toxic, with Pluto and the Sun in Capricorn opposing the Moon in Cancer. The full moon earlier highlighted some not so great tendencies that we need to be accountable for. So with the square that we've got here with Uranus and Taurus squaring the Sun in Aquarius on nearly the last day of January, right before the new moon in Aquarius, I should mention, which is on the 1st, right on the day of the new lunar year, you cannot get by January 30th without having seriously rewired your internal mental system. And there are some attachments that are very unhealthy that have been needing to been let go of forever ago. So ultimately, this square is going to force us to get out of our comfort zone. So although squares are normally not an exciting thing to look forward to, they do accelerate a sense of work, and smart decision making. They do bring out a sense that, okay, we need to apply action. We can't evade responsibility. So it's better to take preemptive action on a very uncomfortable state of being, and to consider alternative solutions. Because when we talk about Uranus, we talk about the alternative, the decisions we have not considered, the methods, the new methods that we never thought we could undertake, that we never thought we could assume and find ourselves useful in and efficient. So this contraction that is happening with the native sign of Aquarius in interaction with Uranus in its most difficult spot is accelerating a lot of growth through pressure in the fixed signs. And the North Node, I should mention, is also in Taurus. Not conjunct yet with Uranus. Still ways to go until then. But the North Node in Taurus, which has initiated its transit there a few weeks ago, is where we want to place our emotional aims on. With the North Node in Taurus, there's a need to find a new sense of stability, but in a completely new way. To ground yourself in an unusual manner with Uranus at play here until, like I said, 2026. But 2022 is very crucial with the solar eclipses, the solar and lunar eclipses interacting with Taurus and Scorpio. 2022, in a way, is the catalyst of external change through the internal rewiring, especially when we're going to have Uranus right in the dead middle of Taurus, where the potency of the changes that unpredictably occur at a very fast pace they take a hold of you, and they take a hold of you for your benefit so that you can grow far further than you ever thought you could in ways you never thought of. So Uranus is unpredictable in good and bad ways. The bad comes with the good, as a matter of fact. With Uranus, you have to lose things in order to gain much more. And in the sign where it falls, the transformation is much more prominent. So January 30th is going to be a difficult day that ultimately you have to be present for. You have to accept the challenge. You have to show up for it and be ready for the unknown. Because with Uranus, we're talking about the unknown. But with the unknown, there are many possibilities that are to your benefit. So, especially because Uranus and Taurus also trines Venus, ruler of Taurus. Venus, which is currently in Capricorn. And on that day of January 30th, Uranus and Taurus, although squares the Sun in Aquarius, trines very, very supportively with Venus in Capricorn, which is stationary on that day. So Venus will be going direct the day after that day of restriction and pressure. It's to your benefit. There's, in a way, a very big opportunity to make an unusual decision that you cannot be insecure about. So with Venus in Capricorn, we're focused on new investments. New investments. There's a sense of diligence with money and assets and resources and relationships with Venus. There's diligence and cautiousness in Capricorn with Venus there, but one that is considered with a lot of thought. Some deep reflection. After deep reflection and reconsideration of our progress in life and what are the important goals in our life, especially with Pluto and Mercury in Capricorn. We've been revising our life, our professional life, our long-term goals, achievements, the matters of importance in Capricorn, and the time and commitments we allocate in the different aspects of our lives, and how some of these aspects are sapping the growth of authentic goals. With Pluto, it seems like, with Pluto and Capricorn at play, it seems like we've been giving too much of ourselves, burning out in jobs we've lost desire and passion for. Pluto saps away a lot of energy in that sense. And so the full moon earlier in January really highlighted that. The fact that we subconsciously give away our time and energy into commitments to people that, yes, although we still need to be responsible for, need to have less importance in this very crucial time where new systems can take place with Saturn and Aquarius. So trying to connect a lot of dots. I know it's hard to keep up, but listen, keep paying attention to what I'm saying. So Uranus and Taurus trining Venus and Capricorn is going to encourage you through a difficult, intense day of disagreements with the Sun in Aquarius. You're going to suddenly make investments and decisions that are for your long-term goals, that are going to have a huge payoff this year, with Pluto still remaining in Capricorn until 2023. There's a last chance, in a way, there's a possibility for you to splurge on items and resources with Venus that are extremely beneficial to your professional pursuits and your bigger goals for the rest of your life. And so if you want to make some purchases online with Uranus and Taurus, if you have money saved up that you've been budgeting, if you've been very frugal with Venus and Capricorn, there's a tendency towards frugality there with Venus in Capricorn, especially as it's been retrograding. The end of the month of January is going to be really important for you to perhaps consider investing, to not be insecure and afraid of spending the money that you're saving, and to not hold on to it too heavily with Uranus and Taurus, and to make some crucial purchases that are going to serve your bigger goals that are really important to you. Not purchasing, I'm not talking about buying candy or, a gadget that you're going to fiddle around like a Roblox cube. That's the opposite end of the unevolved side of Uranus investments. Weird items that are probably going to lay around and be all over the house. No, we're not doing that. We're making wise purchases that we've actually considered before, but are finally taking the leap of faith into purchasing. So those are things to think about. There could be themes around cryptocurrency, investments in crypto, or tech companies, new online platforms. You could be buying literally electronic equipment for remote work if that's what you're doing. Kind of like what I'm doing here, more or less. So January 30th is going to be a useful day to make some really key investments that you're going to want to kind of risk away with, because the moon is going to be conjunct with Venus in Capricorn. And the moon, although has a bit of trouble in Capricorn, there is a tendency to repress what you're feeling and to run away from your insecurities. But with Venus there and the moon interacting with Taurus, so Venus rules Taurus, moon is exalted in Taurus, in a way, although you have that initial fear of investment, ultimately know that you have to trust your decision making, and that it's not always going to make rational sense, and you have to make a bet on your life. You have to bet on the things that are really important to you, and sometimes that's going to involve making investments and purchases that you might not see immediate results in, but they are going to have a big payoff later, several months into the year. We never know. With Uranus, it's unpredictable. So it's better to try than not have taken a chance on your goals. So do it. If you really, really, really respect yourself, you're going to do these things occasionally. So on January 30th, we're leading up through a lot of deep reflection with Mercury and Pluto and Capricorn. We're not making investments. We're not making decisions on a whim. It's through a lot of deliberation. And it seems like at the end of the month, we're dealing with a lot of prominent disagreements with people that we hoped would know better, would support us and support our ideas and opinions. But unfortunately, at this point, it's about making the decisions that you know are good for you and that you're knowledgeable in. So looking for validation in these decisions that I mentioned, such as investments, could even be departing from your job. In some cases, it could be parting ways with an old occupation that you've been holding up and committed to for a long time, Capricorn. So you could also reduce your work hours or flat out choose to communicate your departure with Pluto and Mercury there too. You're announcing the ending of your commitment there to your boss. So there are prominent changes occurring that we are planting for the later half of the year, which is going to be one of fruitfulness. But now's the time to make important decisions, especially leading up into February. So January 30th overall is not going to be a super pleasant day too. You might have some electronic disruptions in public spaces, especially lots of phone calls, maybe random phone calls that have nothing to do with your work or wherever you are that is in contact with a lot of people. You might not be able to get in contact with people, losing connection, internet, or not getting an answer from someone. There might be a lot of disagreements, some very stubborn disagreements over social media and the internet, and in community spaces like a community server, let's say, or you get kicked out of an online group all of a sudden, and that riles you up with Uranus and Taurus. How dare they kick you out when you've been a member of this group for detach and then focus on yourself. Not a time to be blaming other people. And things happen for a reason, whether we like it or not. So a lot of friendships could be on hold. You could be rejected from a long-standing group of people that you see on a regular basis that you exchange a lot of ideas with. And in a way we can, those frustrating situations break us free to our benefit, but against our will with the square. And so with Uranus and Taurus, sometimes there could be a fear of rebelling too against people that should know better, that keep telling you and finger wagging, saying, no, this is not the way to do it. Especially with Pluto and Mercury and Capricorn, and and Mars there too. There's a tendency from people that are older than you to tell you, nope, this is not the way things work. This is how we always do it. This and that. You have to follow by the book, and you can't do things your own way. Or, there's a feeling that you're being dismissed more than ever. So your ideas are being dismissed, So you could be tempted at the end of the month to stubbornly rebel due to the pessimism, Saturn in Aquarius, around the lack of a sense of freedom in public spaces with the sun there. So the danger that you could possibly run into is stubbornly wanting to speak out from an extremist point of view, to be so stubborn to try to get other people to agree with you, which is the negative side of Uranus, is wanting to assert your opinion and intelligence into the communal space when you're not letting other people develop their own growth of mind, especially with Uranus and Taurus. So watch out for that. There could be frustrating events that kind of force you to get out of your secure zone. But ultimately, this leads to a lot of personal evolution. So, and here's another thing. Here is one interesting thing, is if you need to ask for financial assistance with the Moon and Venus in Capricorn, there is a good possibility that you will be supported. There could be authority figures or other family members that are actually older than the ones you regularly see, and they might be able to support your ideas. So let's say a grandparent Because normally parents don't agree with this. They're at least open. Most parents are not as willing to agree with their children than grandparents. So see if there are extended family members that you can feel open-minded with, that you've actually never been super close to, but suddenly you build a stronger attachment through open conversation, Uranus and Taurus. So there could be an unconventional development in attachments with other people of the same family tree in a way. But overall, January 30th is going to be hard for you to agree with people generally out there in the public sphere, Sun and Aquarius, and you could feel awkward as well, presenting yourself in a different and an original way. But do it. Do it, stick to it, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of reaching out to strangers, and detach yourself from old social associations, Saturn and Aquarius. Allow yourself to wisely choose new methods, new ways of operating socially. You're going to be challenged and is inspired to do it through the amount of tension that you're going to be getting leading up to that day of January 30th. So all of this is really stimulating. All of these placements are stimulating us to, in a way, practice leadership over our choices, to assert ourselves better through our own sense of original thinking. And so you're going to be finding yourself overall separate. You're not going to get along. It's not going to be a day of ease. But you're going to find interesting new dynamics occurring in the most unusual way, whether it be through, like I said, extended family members you haven't been in contact until recently, or people that are involved in communities that you're suddenly developing a lot of new interest for. So think about those spaces, but don't try to stubbornly convince people that you are disappointed with or mad at to change in their way. It's not going to work, unfortunately. So overall, this is really what's to expect. As far as, the mundane effects or the global effects of these placements, I think there are going to be a lot of, let's say there are going to be a number of disappointing news involving companies and governments and how they're handling money and financial assets. And so that might be a frustrating collective impact that's going to be set up on that day. But otherwise, there's a really, really strong possibility for people to propel themselves in new ways forward, especially once we move into February, which is going to be really key in terms of sharing new views, beliefs, and values. There's going to be a lot of social exchange occurring. Not the easiest, but February is going to in many ways inspire the world to perhaps revise priorities and practice accountability for their moral responsibility in relation to the collective. We all have our own responsibility that we need to uphold as a citizen or a member of planet Earth. We all have to help each other out and to think about the greater good, public welfare, how we contribute to society. and to think less of our personal desires, or superficial ones at least. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I want to talk about more stuff, but I have to put a time limit, because with Uranus, sometimes you have so many ideas and then you lose yourself in a storm of words and mumbo jumbo. So I think this is fine. This is good enough for now. Let me know. Share your thoughts, observations, or ongoing events that have to do with these placements. If you feel as though this is coming up in your life, then let me know so that we can exchange valuable insights on life and how that's reflected in the astrology. I was your host, Volk. Thank you for watching. I stream on Twitch. You're welcome to join us on there. We provide a more or less relaxing atmosphere. You're welcome to join me on there. And we'll see you around. Take it easy on yourself. And remember, you're unique. You're unique in your own way, and there's no need to proclaim it to the world. You know it yourself, and that's good enough. We'll see you around. Take it easy. Goodbye.